Hello there, friend. Pour yourself a glass of whiskey and throw some more peat on the fire.
We were fortunate enough to try a 12-year-old bottle worth $36 and a 50-year-old vintage worth $30,000.
Nice, sweet, soft.
The 12-year-old whiskey was certainly sweet and pleasant to drink, but I was expecting the more expensive bottle to taste out of this world to justify its price.
Oh wow. Really distinct.
You can taste much more European oak in this one.
The distinction between the flavours, like it's a lot smoother and a lot oakier.
There seems to be truth that the longer the alcohol is in there, the smoother it tastes, so the more deserving of the expensive price.
So the front row of whiskies that I have in my little whiskey store that are unopened, but I can recommend this one for Canadians. It's actually very cheap and not bad at all.
A bottle of the Macallan 1926 60-year-old recently sold for $1.5 million in auction, marking the largest single sale ever for a bottle.
I have 7 whiskies that I'll be trying during this video, and I'll explain how I react to them all during the video.
In a good glass of Scotch whiskey, you can taste everything about the very place the Scotch whiskey comes from. Take this bottle of Oban, made right here in the town of Oban, Scotland. It all starts with the crystal clear water of the Scottish Highlands. You can taste the peat of the beautiful land the distillery sits on. You can taste the oak of the barrel it's aged in. And the sweat of the men and women who worked hard to ensure Oban's delicious flavor. Am I picking up notes of a full Scottish breakfast? You bet I am. You might even get a tinge of citrus. Some say it tastes like orange. I say orange peel. A hint of citrus flavor helps give Oban its special character. Yeah, that's the good stuff right there. That's honey, all right. And damn good honey at that. Drink deep, and you can even taste the long hair of the woolly cow or Highland cattle that populate the seaside. That's all right. You can take my word for it on that one. What does it taste like when you put it all together? Sorry, what were we talking about?
Salute! First one I'm going to try is this. This is also quite cheap in Canada. It is Irish. I don't like Irish whiskey. I like this. I find it very smooth. As you can see, it's quite pale, a little bit brown. Nose is smoky, very, very smoky. It's not a bad whiskey. If you like Scottish whiskey and you like it smooth, I do recommend this.
Scots have been making whisky for centuries. It's a tradition refined over the years by generations of skilled master craftsmen, so that every dram, be it single malt, blend or liqueur, is a small glass of history in its own right. It might surprise you to know that for such a complex and varied drink, Scotch whisky is made using just 3 ingredients.
These of course are just whiskies that I happen to have open and have been drinking, apart from the Toki, which I'm looking forward to drinking. This is a Speyside whiskey, it's a Benarash. As you can see, it's noticeably darker than the Irish. Not quite so smelling of smoke. And in the glass, it doesn't look as dark as it does in the bottle. Much stronger alcohol effect. It's okay. To me, it tastes a little bit acidic. Well, it's not my favourite whiskey at all, which is probably why there's quite a bit left in the bottle.
Lowland whiskies are known for their delicate, malty, citrusy character, while Highland malts tend to be more robust with nutty notes, hints of honey, and if the distillery is near the sea, some salty maritime influences creep in. Speyside is renowned for its fruity single malts, and there's no mistaking Islay whiskies. which are usually heavily peated and have a wonderful, warming, smoky character. Campbelltown whiskies, on the other hand, have a curious mix of characteristics, ranging from peat-flavoured to dry or salty.
This is a Macallan. It's a Highland whiskey. Everybody knows Macallan, quite a big distillery. This is double cask, etc., etc. None of that means anything. When you open it up, it doesn't really smell of anything. The overwhelming smokiness of the other ones have done it in. So really okay to finish off the Macallan. I think it's more of a mixing whiskey. I mean, you can drink this neat, but it's kind of sweet tones to it. Not bad.
Whisky. No visit to Scotland would be complete without sampling a wee dram. Sure, you can taste Scotch all over the world, but there's nothing quite like tasting a warming single malt right here in the place it was made.
Now we're staying in the Highlands for the next one. This is a Tomatin, the Highland whiskey. As you can see, they look remarkably different. Much paler than Macallan. Very subtle nose. Let's pour. Ooh. It smells much smokier, much peatier, much more. But oftentimes the nose doesn't translate into the taste. Good whiskey it does. And Tomatin's good whiskey. Very, very smooth.
Fresh spring water, malted barley and yeast. These are the three basic ingredients of a good single malt whisky. Fermented and distilled, these simple ingredients are then filled into oak casks and left to mature. At least 3 years later, but often longer, after the angels have had their share, the casks are prized open and malt whisky is born. Sounds easy, doesn't it? But the story of whisky is far more than the sum of its parts. It's a story of passion, perseverance and spirit, with a bit of mystery, magic and intrigue thrown in for good measure.
My favourite area to buy whiskey and drink whiskey from is this sleigh. I really like the smoky peats. This is a good example of that, not a very expensive one. This is the Dunbacon, and you can see it looks kind of smoky in the glass. It smells like an old campfire, with hints of pine in it. But not a huge complex taste because it's not an expensive whiskey. And so you're always going to be getting compromise. Either you really like the smell or you really like the taste. Drinking this whilst inhaling, careful, makes it very, very nice. If you don't actually smell it as you drink it, bit of a fire, bit of a chewy texture.
One of the most common misconceptions is that whisky is a drink for men. It's not certain where this myth originated. Dusty men's clubs, cowboy movies, take your pick. Wherever it originated, it is ridiculous. Whisky is a drink for everyone, and with the sheer variety of whiskies on offer, everybody can find their perfect dram. Another myth is that whisky must be drunk neat to be fully appreciated. This myth is slightly more controversial, with people falling on either side of the divide. But we're here to tell you that you can enjoy your whisky whichever way you like. Some people like a splash of water, some people like ice, some people enjoy a whisky cocktail. It's entirely up to you, and don't let anybody tell you any different. People have been making whisky in the same way for hundreds of years, but never on such a grand scale. Today, some 20 million casks lie maturing in warehouses across Scotland.
And now, for the first time in my life, I'm going to try Japanese whiskey. This is Suntory, which you've probably heard, you've seen it around, Toki. It was not a bad price. They use some sort of a cotton material on the top, whereas most Scotch whisky uses the metal. I do not hold that against them. If you're going to be different, be different. Remarkably little nose. Salute, or whatever they say in Japan. There is a nose there. It's very, very subtle. Way too fruity for me. Lemon notes for sure on the tongue. Suntory tasted. Suntory rates okay, but I'd much rather go with a Tomatin any day of the week.
There's no wrong way to order a Lagavulin as long as you're polite. You can go to your nearest fine liquor store or ask for a glass at your favorite local watering hole. Or you can order it the old-fashioned way. Excuse me. Wonder where this one's from. Dear kind sir, 1 bottle of Lagavulin, please and thank you. James S., Norfolk, Virginia. Coming right up, James. It takes a little longer this way, sure, but it's already been aged 16 years. What's another week or 2 on the high seas? Oh yeah, you were gonna be one happy fella, James. Enjoy, James. Please drink responsibly. Go ahead, try it for yourself. Doesn't matter where you're from. Just grab a bottle, write a message, consult your finest globe, and send that bad Larry in the general direction of Scotland. It takes time, but it'll get here. We've got the patience if you do. Ah, more customers. High tide. Happy hour. Our apologies to those of you in landlocked territories. You'll have to acquire your Lagavulin by more traditional means. Dear sir, 1 Lagavulin, please. Just can't get enough of that intense, dry peat smoke and sea salt finish. Peter M., Boston, Mass. Guy knows his stuff. Give me a damn drink already. Doug, Culver City, California, USA. Sorry, Doug, that's no way to treat your bartender. Average delivery is 7 to 100 days, depending on currents, weather phenomena, and of course, which hemisphere you're in. Lagavulin Scotch Whisky, available now and forever via maritime delivery.
So the word whiskey comes from Usabeg, which is the water of life, and that's exactly what it is. It really is the lifeblood of the economics of Scotland currently, and in previous years, very much so. Every small little highland had their own little illegal distillery, and that is how they got cash once they were illegally occupied by the British, the English, if you like. So Useg became, over time, Usk. Usk got transferred into whiskey. Probably because over time people just didn't understand what the Scots people were saying. It sounded like whiskey. To finish off this somewhat inebriated presentation, what I would like to do is actually show you the guy who's got the best job in the world.
My name is Ian MacArthur, and I'll be working here in Lagavulin for 40 years on the 4th of August this year. What I do now, I do warehousing, I do a lot of malt advocates, I do a lot of visitors with peat cutting, and I try and keep a lot of people happy, which is not an easy job.
And though I have none left, I have on multiple occasions drank Lagavulin, and I love Lagavulin. My 2 favourite whiskies in all the world are Oban and Lagavulin. And I liked Lagavulin long before Parks and Rec. I've been drinking whiskey since I was probably 4 or 5. My grandfather used to put a wee tot, which was like probably a couple of fingers, in a coffee for me every time he thought I had a cold, swearing that it cured my colds. I don't know if it did, but it did help me sleep. And I appreciated whiskey over the years. One of my highlight trips I ever did was I went to Edinburgh to get a job in Canada, paid for by Canada, thank you Canada. And I really enjoyed going around the distilleries and also the museum that's up there. If you're ever in Edinburgh, go to the Whisky Museum. It's absolutely a great trip. You go on a massive barrel and you smell and see whiskey. And it dumps you into the world's tiniest, well, it did dump you into the world's tiniest little gift store with millions and millions of little bottles of about 700 types of whiskey. I really had fun. Unfortunately, I was married at the time and I didn't have as much fun buying stuff there as I would now. Salute! Yes, I'm a bit drunk. Don't drink and drive.
Lagavulin to me is, the way you drink it is just a wee drop of water and just slanjava.
This has been a Somewhat Drunk Terrier production 2021.